Hello everyone and welcome to Sadaya Dانشجو. My name is Ryan.
My name is Nora.
My name is Ida.
And my name is Babak.
And today we have a very special guest. This is one of our own. Babak is a 21-year-old, soon to be 22, graduate of UCLA with a bachelor's in science of molecular, cellular, and developmental biology. In his time at UCLA, Babak was the president of the Iranian Medical Society, and a prolific student researcher, as well as an advocate for the home displaced. We're all pre-meds here, are rising medical students, and so we are pleased to announce Babak is going to be going to St. Louis University School of Medicine in very soon. This is a recording in June of 2025, and you are attending in a couple days. You're going in a couple days or something like that.
Not in a couple days, mid-July.
Mid-July.
Yeah, it's pretty soon.
So, Babak, as we were discussing off camera, why medicine? Put your interview hat back on one last time in your life.
Oh man, taking me back to thinking about why medicine. I mean, it's such a long and detailed story, and like it involved some nuance of like, oh, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? It all started really when I was much younger. I had some chronic health issues, and that required me to go to the doctor a lot more as a kid than others.
Yeah.
And that gave me an opportunity to kind of learn a lot more about medicine at a younger age and see what it was. And maybe it's just like a kid, like being more interested in the things that they do experience, or maybe it's more like just something I truly just was drawn to. But I developed like this kind of focus and interest in medicine right from there. And from there, it kind of sat along, and I just went through my schooling, found an interest in biology and the sciences. And
when did that start?
When
was it high school?
Around high school,
yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then from there, I'm like, you know what? For now, let's try the pre-med path. Why not? Give it a try.
So
right?
We had talked about how you went straight through. Mm-hmm. Many of your colleagues, myself included, do not envy you. And I mentioned this to you. We don't envy you going straight through. Straight through essentially means that he went from high school straight to undergraduate, and then he's going straight to medical school. The application happens, the MCAT happens, all of that pre-med process is condensed into the undergraduate years concurrent with your classes. Why? Why'd you do that to yourself?
I ask myself that question every day. I ask that question to myself during all my years in pre-med. I did end up doing it. It involved a lot of processes and factors to really understand why I really wanted to do that. I first had to develop a realization that medicine was in fact what I'm doing. Going into medicine is one of the most insane things in terms of how much of a workload it is, how much commitment it requires,
right,
and how serious it is. It's not for everyone.
Logically, how do you arrive at that conclusion? I've grappled with that. That has been my biggest struggle in the pre-med process, is logically. How, because I'm a logical person, how do I rationalize the amount of suffering that I'm willingly putting on myself? For what purpose? How does that, is this transformative to me? Is this self-actualizing to me? The most important things in my life. I want to be old, look back on my life and think that I did the right thing. How did you do that?
That's a fantastic question. I think the root of it all comes from actually, well, I'd say there's two elements to it, right? There's the more scholarly element, which is like, do I have the ability to study for all these years and work and grind through and actually take in all the knowledge and be a good doctor? That's one part of it, and it's the shorter part. The second part, well, it's also significant though, but the second part is actually taking the time to see, right? Go into the office, right? Go into a hospital, see all of the different medical settings and see what actually is happening in healthcare, right? Not only the setting of a doctor, see different types of doctors, see nurses and certified nurse assistants, see all the elements that involve actually treating patients in healthcare, and see if that is a situation that you want to be in. If that is somewhere that you can thrive. I personally saw it. I saw the good, I saw the bad, and I saw the very, very bad, right? And I thought to myself, do I have the ability to support others in this role, support patients, people in their most vulnerable states, and make a positive impact amidst the difficulty? And I felt that I could do that. I felt like I wanted to do that. And seeing doctors at the age of 70 plus still practicing, and most people ask them, why are they retiring? I could see myself in their shoes and say, why would I want to retire when this is so fulfilling, right? And when I realized that, especially in certain specialties I was a little bit more interested in, although I'm not really set in stone on one, I was like, I'd love to do this.
So you mentioned identifying with the successful and older physician. How catalytic was that towards the ability to reaffirm to yourself, this is what I want to do? Was that, because for me that was definitely a pivoting point. Or was it the internalization of just going through the role, maybe a little bit of both?
I'm not sure if there was necessarily a pivot point for me at any point. I'm not like a big, quick changer. I'm like a gradual, I'm more like a gradually setting in realization kind of person. It's a bunch of different factors that came in, right? And maybe there's like a little bias that like, oh, the older doctors that are still working, they're probably better doctors because they actually care about people because they're working at that like age.
Yeah.
Unless they're in like some major debt, in which case that's like a whole other situation. But again, like just seeing that and just trying to put myself in their shoes and seeing if this is what I want to do for my life. It's that realization. Is this what you want to do in your life? And then think in another end, right? There's so many other jobs with not much easier paths, but easier paths or different paths.
There's also a lot of job flexibility in just getting the medical doctorate, period.
So why be a physician, right? And I thought, I think I would have the most fun and but it would be the most rewarding for me, right? Yeah. I like to only do things that are fun for me. I don't like to do things I don't like to do.
For being honest.
And and this is, if I could do this in my life, that would be perfect. That would be a dream. And that's why I'm trying to do it.
How do you girls, your answers stand up to that?
I mean, it seems like you have a lot of passion and a lot of drive, and I think if you know that early on, then I guess it makes sense to just go straight through and take that journey. So that's interesting,
Yeah, I personally took, a few gap years because I really wanted to get that experience and learn about what kind of doctor I want to be and kind of just focus more on that clinical experience and some research, which I know you did all through undergrad, which is very hard. I commend you on that. But I would say my answer of why medicine is probably very similar, and I think a lot of people can agree with that. It is very fulfilling. It is one of the most fulfilling careers.
So Bobak, you like science and you like helping people. Why not be a nurse? Why not be a PA? Why not be an NP? So many different careers that you can do. Why not get a PhD? Why MDDO? What was the thought process behind that?
And like you, Ryan, I'm also a very logical person. I wanted to really knock out every single one of those, and just to make sure medicine was the one for me. And what I tried to do, as much as I could, I tried to put myself in those experiences, right? At the hospital, I was able to shadow and see a lot of other medical roles. And from what I saw, for me personally, the roles that they played in the medical process were not necessarily the same as what a doctor does, which is kind of like, in most cases, a doctor is planning out the course of treatment, implementing more complex elements, and kind of designing how to properly and cumulatively treat a patient, versus nurses and certified nursing assistants and PAs that usually are just performing smaller operations or just treatments in line with the plan developed by the physician. I feel like with my skill sets and abilities, and my love for learning and knowledge, I think I could design, I feel like I fit more in the role of that puzzle solving element in designing treatments. That's just one way I viewed it. It's obviously more complex and more nuances than that, but that's one way. And as for PhD, I tried to put my foot into research and learn a lot more about research, see if that was a possibility of a path for me through wet lab work. And it didn't feel as, I like to interact with people and feel like I'm directly helping person. Yeah, I really do like to interact with people.
And you can contrast this against medical specialties, but those of us in research labs, it can be a slow grind. It's a slow burn, which is not as rewarding for some. We don't seek that in our careers for the rest of our lives.
Precisely.
Might be nice if if it was the other way, but that's just not the reality. We had brought up a question about family pressure in medicine for you. So changing the subject.
Yeah.
Family pressure, what, if any, did you have?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it strong pressure at all.
Yeah.
There were certainly some like vying by my mom and grandma, like, oh, you should become a doctor. You would do so great. You like to talk to people. You're so smart. Like all the stuff like the moms, Iranian moms love to tell their kids, right? And so I got that kind of, not pressure, but like
It was
little
shoehorned in.
shooing, like
Yeah.
go towards that direction, right? And I wouldn't say that they necessarily pressured me, but like I explored it as a possible path option, and I'm very confident my parents would be okay if I didn't want to do that as well. But it just happened to be something I was interested in. My dad actually tells me not to go into medicine. He's an engineer, so it's not even like it's a doctor telling someone not to go into
Yeah,
medicine.
typically it's a doctor saying that. but
Yeah. My dad's like, oh, it's a long process, but if you like it, you should do it, right? Don't do it because your mom tells you to or something,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'd say it's a mixed bag, but not. I personally didn't experience pressure. I did know people who did experience the pressure too, though, and it was a different circumstance for
I
them.
would say I have a little bit of that pressure. Yeah. Mom and dad love to say, can't wait for you to be a doctor, can't wait for this, just pinning a timeline or a certainty, an element of certainty and predictiveness.
My grandma's already telling everyone in Iran that I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
On her Facebook, everyone.
You're already a doctor.
I'm not even like starting medical school yet. Well, I'm starting soon, but she's been telling it for 2 years now.
And then the questions start
So-
trickling in. Can you look at this rash? What does this look like?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm an undergrad.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Yeah. So
I kind of got the opposite of where my family did not want me to go into medicine. I come from a big family of doctors,
Yeah.
and almost every single one of them has told me that it's just a very long path, and if there is literally anything else you would consider doing, to not go into medicine. And I think exactly like all of us, I don't think there's anything else I could see myself in, and I don't think there's anything else you could see yourself in. And so that's kind of how I landed on it. But it's, rather than pressure, it's pressure not to do it.
Yeah. I think all of us are very fortunate that it seems like we've all had some element of process elimination in this overarching process. I think that has to be one of the strongest motivators for why medicine, and one of the best ways to answer that in an interview setting.
Yeah.
Try not to think of it in terms of how I can market myself, but it's absolutely true. And of course, that is also in the back of my mind. My purveying sense has at one point in time put me in the position of wanting to be a police officer, a firefighter. I've been all over the place. PA, nurse, PhD, and through actively seeking out that sort of to prove the null hypothesis or disprove, that was my way of approaching that question. Working with police officers and first responder setting, the same thing with firefighters. Personally speaking with nurses, I had the pleasure of speaking with a military PA, and of course in the pre-med process we go about this thing called shadowing, where we directly shadow, which just means following around silently with a notepad and maybe asking irritating questions to a doctor who is much too stressed for that. And that's how we learn. It's a part of the system. It's accepted. And it kind of leads me to another line of thought. What parts of this process, Bobak, are generally accepted that you think is just ridiculous about the application process, the pre-med process, now as an admitted student?
That's a really great question, honestly.
Why,
and
thank you.
there are so many ridiculous elements to the process.
Name a few.
I'd have to like literally just draw a few like by random. Like it's so many things. I would say just the sheer increase in expectations that schools have. Online, you're going to find that people are like, oh, you have to apply to medical school with thousands of research hours.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have like a top like what 15 percentile MCAT to get into an MD school or something. Oh, you have to have like thousands of clinical hours where you're doing something clinical related. Oh, don't forget you have to have thousands of volunteering hours. And if you think about it, right, thousands of volunteering hours involve you volunteering and not getting paid, taking a significant time out of your like
Right.
schoolwork,
It's
or
nonsensical.
if you're not at school, right, you're not getting paid for that time. Oh, you're doing research. Usually you're not going to be getting paid if you're doing research because you don't have like a research degree or a degree that qualifies you to do research. You're doing all of this work with like no pay, right? Or maybe like some little pay if you're doing like a clinical job, and all these hours. And then you have to put together this narrative that's supposed to set you aside from every single other person who's also trying with the dream of becoming a physician. And it is a lot for generally like young adults, like most of our young adults. I applied straight through, so I'm probably younger than the average applicant, but it's just a lot. And a lot of people, I mean, I can go on this for hours. A lot of people can't afford to spend all that time volunteering and working for free in research labs. You know, you have to correspond that with your schoolwork, or that results in you having to take gap years and, you know, working to prepare to actually pay and get ready to apply for your medical cycle. And it's just on and on forever.
Yeah, disenfranchisement leads to real
Exactly.
academic disadvantagement.
Yeah.
This is a tough question. Where do you stand with how students are compared? What do you think, in a broader sense, so what do you think medical schools look at you and think, wow, this kid is awesome? What was that X factor or that accepted admissions decision that was on your app? You're the person looking at your app on file, or you're in the post-interview committee. They're all talking, yeah, Bobak was pretty good. Okay, stamp, and they throw you in.
I genuinely have no clue how medical admissions people look at
Come
things.
on.
And really, nobody knows. I mean, I actually got accepted to one medical school out of 40 that I applied to. And that was not
That's
only
awesome.
me. I'd say, I mean, I'm happy I got accepted, but
Yeah.
like, it was just one school. And if
Scary,
that
but
school
awesome.
didn't, then I would have been reapplying. And was that just for me? No. Most of my friends, they only got into one school or they didn't get into any schools, right? I'm not sure what factors they looked at for me specifically that stood out specifically, because at this point, I'm not sure. They didn't really delegate. The school I did get accepted to, I had a very like personal discussion with my interviewer, and I felt like
I can tell you what it is.
perhaps that's it.
It's exactly your ability to do this. This is it for those that are listening that are looking for the X factor. One, it's pursuing things that you are passionate about. And then two, when you get to that interview because they're interested in you, it's not coming across as, I believe why medicine because, and something like that. It's scary. I at one point in time did interviews and training for young EMTs. And I could tell which ones were going to quit within weeks or months, and then I could tell which ones could handle it for years. Wow. Why? Because of this exact element. Can I talk to you and you're normal? You can get through the application and you can apply, and then you get the interview solely off of I'm sure your great stats, your great activities, and on paper you look awesome, but then you get to the interview and you totally bomb it because you have no interpersonal skills. Soft skills. Soft skills are surprisingly important. What do patients care about? Oh man, I have this like bacterial infection or something. Well, the pathophysiology and the biochemistry behind this drug that I'm going to give you, and they're just looking at you with their mouth open like what? What does the patient really want to hear? This is my opinion, but I'm kind of driving it home like it's fact. It's not totally factual, nor not dogmatic, but I just have a really strong opinion about this. What I see works the best is, maybe not as less patronizing as you can make it, and more not empathetic but compassionate. I'm sorry, and like, okay, well, here's what we can do.
Like
compassion,
humanizing the patient.
caring. How much do you care, not how much do you know? What do you think about that?
I definitely, in the hospital setting, see a lot of people who come off as, they they see patients kind of as like case studies rather than as individual people. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues in medicine, that these patients are given like, maybe like a 15-minute slot, and the doctors are just rushed to go from patient to patient, and they rush through, explanations, and they don't give, necessary information or compassion because they're just trained to go from one person to another, treat them as a case, and then walk away.
Right. You're training and not extrapolating. You're training with your personal experiences. Also, what you're hinting at is McDonaldization of medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's real. What do you think, Bobak, now that you're getting ready, you're gearing up for all that, what issues are you maybe preparing yourself to face? Like you were talking about, basically you were giving the schematic for being in residency, working for no pay, like volunteering, basically analogous to residency in the sense we were talking about. What issues are you preparing to face, or what have you heard and now you're gearing up for?
I wanted to clarify your question. Do you mean in terms of like larger healthcare related issues, or difficulties as a student or learning, learner?
It's both. Whatever you think.
I mean, I've heard a lot about treatment of patients who suffer or are in marginalized groups or do not have as much access to healthcare. I personally haven't done a significant amount of patient treatment because I did a lot of volunteering, but not a lot of actual clinical work towards people in underserved communities. So I'm really interested in learning more about that. I know that is actually a significant issue in St. Louis specifically.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. So I want to learn a lot more about that and how I can help that community, and kind of the methods people use to specifically help that community, because it's obviously not going to be your traditional hospital bill insurance method, but rather more free clinics and using this is kind of a key thing. I'm going to kind of diverge here, but medical knowledge, going to medical school, it's a gift. Having that knowledge is such a gift. How can we share that gift? Right? It's not going to just involve you working as a resident, as a doctor at the hospital, right? How can you share it beyond that? And I'm not talking about helping your AMU who has a question about this or this or this, right? Go out and share it. You don't have to charge money, right? You're going to make money with your job doing whatever, right? Use that knowledge and try to share it and help others who aren't able to afford it, because I think everyone deserves the right to be healthy and happy.
And so we are here doing exactly that. Yeah.
I kind of have a follow-up. What do you think your most meaningful experience as a pre-med was?
Most meaningful experience as a pre-med?
Or one of.
Just think back to your AMCAS.
I don't want to think back to that. It matters in a few ways. Most meaningful in determining why I want to do medicine, most meaningful in why I'm interested in healthcare, most meaningful in
maybe
what shaped you into who you are, and what kind of person you are, what kind of doctor you want to be.
You think about it the most.
Yeah.
Maybe a moment that stood out when you were doing your volunteering.
I'd say, it actually does come back to the volunteering in the hospital. I would say I had a lot of opportunities to sit bedside with patients and talk to them. Sometimes I would feed them and just engage with them, especially because a lot of the times hospitals are dark, dingy, and sad settings. Family can't always visit because people have jobs and things to do, and patients have to stay for a long time. Sometimes being there just to talk to a patient and empathize and understand how they feel amidst this difficulty they're experiencing, this vulnerability, it was wow, this is incredibly difficult. And while I was a kid, when I was a patient, I had my family there, and they made that experience better and less traumatic. But it's just, people are in such a vulnerable state. How can I help people in this vulnerable and difficult position, and can I help people in that way?
For those that are uncomfortable around blood, maybe squeamish around blood and gore, or perhaps they feel like they become vulnerable, they're more empathetic in that sense, they become vulnerable when a patient is presenting as vulnerable. Basically someone who can't really deal, they can't cope with that immediateness, the acuity of the scene, what would you recommend to that person? Is there no hope for that person if they're pre-med, or can they adapt to that?
Not at all. I think there is absolutely hope for
Okay.
someone, even in those situations. I mean, I'm like myself squeamish to like my own blood, I would
Yeah.
say, like only my own blood being drawn, not like others in other situations.
Can't
I
relate.
think we all have a natural aversion to needles and blood drawing. I think that's
No.
okay.
I'm a
No.
phlebotomist, so I like,
All right.
I'm very used to it.
Well, you were used to it now. You probably became acclimated to that over time to then become adjusted to that and then go into that to the point where
Yeah.
you were like, I could do that as a job.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to digress, but like when we were doing our trainings, we literally practiced on each other.
Practice on yourself.
Not on ourselves, but like, you know, classmates on classmates, and you were literally just poking each other I mean, not blind, we're trained to do it, but
Yeah.
that really prepares you for almost anything you're going to see.
I do want to come back to your question though. There is going to be a period of discomfort, right, and uncomfortableness, but you do have to kind of push yourself, right, to kind of be open and try to acclimate a little bit. It's going to be stressful and a little discomforting, but that's going to be kind of necessary if you want to pursue this profession. And being vulnerable when others are vulnerable too, that's like just a matter of someone's character. And in that case, my approach is different for everyone because I also become a little vulnerable when I see others. You have to slightly detach a little bit, right, from the situation. Like, be vulnerable with them and empathize and show them you care about them, but be able to slightly detach to also think of how you can help that person. Because if you're vulnerable and sad with them, you aren't going to actually be able to help them. Being a doctor, I think being the best doctor is having that balance, I would say. That's my perspective, of course.
Balance.
Balance.
Not breaking down under pressure. These are all things that are going to be fresh on your mind very, very soon.
Yes,
and,
sir.
and growing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, being told to cut it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode. Thank you, Bobak, for the really insightful interview that was very beneficial for not just myself, but everybody here, and hopefully any would-be listener. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.